What's up, rockers?
Hey, I'm Kaz.
And I'm Shay, and this is a super special edition of For the Record with Kaz and Shay. Kaz, we're always trying to do something new. We're like, what can we do takes this show next level?
Well, you know, because of the debacle with the weather in Southwest Airline, we couldn't do this live on New Year's with Marc. But like I say, we have the Fresh Prince of Darkness, Marc Diamond, guitarist of the Dwarves, legend, beast on a guitar, as a guest, and we're doing it via Zoom. So, Marc,
thank you, Marc. Yeah, we simultaneous. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, you are one of our heroes. We love watching you play, and what we really love is all the great talks we have, like before the show, after the show. So, like, let's do it over Zoom. So, where are you coming from today?
I'm in California, La Crescenta, California.
Okay, beautiful. And, you know, when did we visit Marc at his home?
I think it was 2016. No, 2017.
Yeah, this is a brand new house for you.
We haven't been there yet, but people are going to see with the videos that you made for us, how cool it is.
Yeah, and so the offer to crash anytime still stands?
Anytime you're around, come by.
Yeah, so anyhow, we're going to talk to Marc about everything that has to do with the Dwarves, with the guitar, and just some other fun stuff on conversations. We have a ritual after the shows pretty much. When they're done playing, we get the merch wrapped up. We always have this like little sit down with Marc and we just talk. I'm a sponge for music information and Marc gives it all. And it's just fun. We have great conversations and it's always the funnest part about the Dwarf show is hanging out with you after the shows, whether we were in Vegas, deciding to go play some blackjack, having conversations, or just after any show. But we're going to kind of start off like, you know, you're one of our favorite guitarists out there. I mean, we love your stuff. What was your first, like, kind of introduction to music growing up or whatnot?
Really what I'd hear around the house. You know, my parents enjoyed music, but they weren't like music nuts. We didn't have a lot. I remember the first single I ever bought. The first time I ever said to my mom, we got to go to some place called a record store and buy this song. I got to have the song. That was the Hughes Corporation, Rock the Boat. That was the first record that I ever bought on my own. But, you know, I had the uncle who'd play me the Beatles and Stevie Wonder. And but most of my knowledge, you know, really of music just came from listening to 70s radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the oldest sibling, so I didn't have an older brother who handed stuff down to me.
Yeah, it was going
later. I had a friend of mine whose older brother turned me on to some stuff, but pretty much, you know, I remember taping things off the radio, cassette tapes.
Right. That was the earliest versions, you know, like MTV or Night Tracks. We'd like put the record on, put it up to the TV.
Yeah, pre all that.
Right.
You know, we didn't have cable then.
You record it with the static and everything.
You just kind of put a tape in your little boom box and wait for the song that you wanted to come on, hit play and record.
Right.
And then stop before the guy started talking.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah, and eventually, you know, you get on your bike and you discover the local record store. Then eventually you got a little older and you discovered the cool record store. And that would mean getting on your bike and then getting on a bus and taking a bus ride.
Right.
But it's not like today where you just, you know, at the flip of your fingers, you know, you can, in 20 seconds, you can get a whole band's discography.
Right.
You be riding your bike a couple miles, get out of the bus stop, getting on a bus for a half hour to go to the place that would have the Ramones records and stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. And that's like, you know, those early things like, you know, after you got introduced to the music, and is that when you kind of wanted to pick up a guitar, like as your first instrument and kind of learn some of that? Like what were some of the cool
My mom made me play piano when I was 8. I didn't really enjoy it at the time, but if you know how to play piano, you understand how music works. And from that, I just taught myself how to play guitar. Nino DeFranco was the guy who gave me the guitar lesson. So I did go in once and took one guitar lesson, but I didn't like it because they had all these rules and they tell you how to hold your hands and what to do. So I took one lesson and I just went back to figuring shit out on my own. Probably would have been better if I listened to him because I still make chords weird. But my one lesson was given to me by Nino DeFranco. Look up the Franco family, Heartbeat. It's a love beat.
Yeah.
The great 70s AM pop song.
Jeez, that sounds good. I don't think I've heard that song before, but if it's a recommendation from Marc, I'm sure it's amazing.
Again, another cool story that Marc has
The
told
Franco
us.
family, heartbeat is a love beat. My one guitar lesson from Nino DeFranco.
And then,
They have it on YouTube.
so who were the guitarists that you were influenced at an early age? You picked it up at 8, you said. Was there guitarists?
For me, I mean, learning how to play guitar, the Stones was always my favorite, but until I understood a drop G tuning, none of that sounded right. Ramones was great because it was all bar chords, so you learned your basics. You know, for me, the biggest guitar influence for me growing up was Steve Jones and the Sex Pistols, because he just, in spite of himself or whatever he was trying to do, he was an incredibly tasteful guitar player. He was playing all Chuck Berry licks that just rocked up, so you're getting the basics and then, you know, major power chords. So for me, it was a lot of Chuck Berry, a lot of Johnny Thunders, and then a lot of Cheap Trick. I learned a lot of guitar off Budokan, which I think came out. I don't remember when it came out. I have to look it up. That was a big record for me, Budokan.
Yeah.
Playing along to that. Once somebody showed me the down tuning from those Stone stuff, then that opened up a whole new door. But Black Sabbath, a lot of Black Sabbath. I couldn't play the solos, but you know, I could figure out the chords. But really, Steve Jones was like the big guitar influence on me.
Talk to me about the first bands that you started playing in. What was the first band? At what age were you in a band?
I remember being in a band in junior high school. We were terrible. They had a thing, the Battle of the Bands. I actually have an audio cassette of it. And there's some girl and her parents said, you can go to the Battle of the Bands and you pick the band you like best so they can play your birthday party. And I went to junior high school. My only like real close friend was Mike Dimkich, who plays in Bad Religion now. We've been friends for ages. He had a band. His band were really good. They could actually play. They were much, much better than us. My band was terrible. I remember there was some like older kids who had a metal band. I remember my mom drove us in the station wagon. We loaded up. And I figured I could do it, but then I realized when we got there that I always practiced sitting down. I didn't know how to play standing up, so that didn't help. But we were quite bad. But for whatever reason, the girl picked us. So then we went and played it. She was like some super rich kid who lived out on the beach and stuff like that. So our horrible little band, like, I don't know, what would we be, like 13 or 14 or something? We went and played her birthday party, and people were polite enough. It was just a horrible cacophony of noise. You know, my parents and neighbors were very forgiving because we'd rehearse in the garage, and we were pretty awful, but that was my first band.
You played, you know, it's funny. You surprised me one time. We were talking about you played in a few bands today, Motor Crisis still, and mainly the Dwarves, but we were talking one day and you slipped it by me that, you know, you're a platinum record seller. What was from the Crow soundtrack with New York Loose?
That was a band called New York Loose. Yeah, that was weird. You know, I joined that band when their record, their major label record was coming out. Played on that record, and we did a bunch of touring and stuff, but you know, it didn't last that long. But at some point from that Crow soundtrack, big package showed up at my door. It's a platinum record. You know, it's Marc Diamond. Number 8 sales 1 million copies, and we had a song on that soundtrack. So
that's
I always
awesome.
pointed that.
Why not?
But,
you can. They can't take it away from you. So
yeah, take it away from me. Yeah, and that came from whatever it is. Recording RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America, or whatever it is. But it's a certified platinum record. You know,
that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, not everyone has one of those.
I think Iggy Pop was in our video, so that was fun because he was in the movie. I think they got him to be in the video. I can't remember. I haven't watched it in a very long time. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere.
Right.
And then tell us about how you came to join the Dwarves.
I was out with that band New York Loose. It was us, the Reverend Horton Keat, because Loose was on a big label. You know, they had like, oh, this guy's your guitar roadie. This is your sound guy. And the guy who'd been hired to do my guitars was a friend of ours who's a good friend of Blag's at the time. And, you know, we got to talking. I'm like, oh, yeah, that band's cool. And he said, yeah, you know, he could use someone like you. And that's really how I met the Dwarves, was through him. And then The first record I played on for the Dwarves was Come Clean in 1999. It came out in 99. I didn't play with them live until 2001, but I did a bunch of the leads on Come Clean, and ever since then, I've been with the Dwarves.
I was listening to that on the way over here. Did you play on Accelerator?
Which one?
Accelerator?
Yeah.
I love that song.
That's a fun one.
Oh, all the stuff's good. I mean, that's, the Dwarves, it was funny, I came into the fold with you guys a little after the earlier years. Vag had already left and stuff. You were there. It was already, they already did the hoax with He Who getting stabbed and killed. And those were some kind of fun stories. What were some of the good stories you've had, with the Dwarves? Like, it was a pretty, I've heard some good ones.
I started playing with them in 2001, right after 9/11. Like, really the first big tour that we did was Australia. And funny going, security is very tight, and seeing Pete, you got to bleep that, seeing He Who, gets searched and they find, his mask and stuff in his luggage. And that wasn't really, I was kind of frowned upon getting onto a plane with a weird mask, But for me, when I started playing with them, that's around the time I started playing a little bit longer. It wasn't such a spectacle anymore. It was more of a good, solid rock band. But I never really felt like I was in the band until we played one of those notorious short shows. And it hadn't happened, and then, I think like within a year or so, we did South by Southwest, and I think that lasted about 3 minutes. And I felt like, okay, now I'm in the band. So I remember doing a show in Philadelphia where we opened with Dominator. Didn't finish it. He Who knocked over everything. So the show was less than a minute long. Then I felt like I was in the band. And I remember talking to the guy who owned the bar. I'm like, hey, man, sorry. He's like, no, it's okay. It reminded me of the first time I had sex. It was very exciting. I wasn't really sure what was going on. But then it was over.
Fair enough. That's good.
At that point, I'm like, all right, now I'm in the Dwarves.
Yeah, I had one of your guys' DVDs. I think it came with the Born Again album, and it's great because it had all the extras, like of all the fights and all the crowd fights, and there were some pretty crazy ones.
Yeah. Yeah, shit would happen.
They were back in the day. It's not now. You guys are more, more into the music.
It still happens, but with a lot less freak. It doesn't happen all the time now.
Right.
Shit'll still go off or things get weird. We're not the kind of band, you throw something at us and we see you, we're going to get you,
Right. Or someone tries tying your shoes while you're playing.
We're not the kind of band if an amp breaks, you go, hey, hang on a second while our roadies come out and change us, we'll tell you a story. It's over, But it's also now being older, it's nice not always having to look for an exit.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about. It's been a while since I've cracked somebody with a guitar or something like that.
Right. Well, there was the one guy that tried tying your shoes while you were playing.
Yeah, I remember that.
So you play in a band with a few guys that don't mind getting naked on stage. Did you ever go down that road?
Nah, but I'm not as skinny as I used to be either. So,
I'm always
in Baltimore. I think I misplaced my pants once at a show. I think I got naked, or I can't remember.
But speaking of,
that's not really my thing. That's more of a He Who thing.
But how it like Nick is like so highly regarded as one of the best bass players out there for his business. How is it playing with him? I mean, it's got to be awesome. But like, how do you?
That's the thing. Playing, we record, we go in, me, Nick, and Josh Freeze. And you just don't know, as a guitar player, how much freedom and how easy it is when you're playing with two guys like that. Josh is just the best drummer, and Nick is the best bass player. Playing, in a lot of bands, when you go to do a guitar solo, just everything kind of drops out. It's kind of quiet. Not with Nick. So for me, as a guitar player, it just makes everything so much easier playing with Nick, because I can do all the extra bits and never worry about that dropout.
Right, right.
And recording wise, can't really beat that. I'm very fortunate to have that rhythm section playing with me.
Right. Amazing it is. I mean, like you say, having Josh Freese, who's played with everybody, you know, and just one of the best.
Yeah. And we still, when we go in, record all the records, we go in, it's the three of us, and we play live. You cut all your rhythms live.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody uses Pro Tools, you know, after you get your rhythm tracks done, then you go in and punch stuff, whatever. But as far as the actual rhythm takes, that's with all those records, that's the three of us playing in the room. That's the way it should be.
Right. And you guys have a new album in the can. It's whenever it'll get released. But, you know, talking with you, Nick, Blag, everyone's excited about it. Like, you know, a lot of bands say that.
Yeah, man. You know, this new record's great. I'm really, you know, every record I've ever done with any band, there's always like one or two songs I'm not crazy about. What's odd about this one is it'll probably be a double record. We got like 26 songs or something like that. I like every one, man. And that's never really happened. I mean, I'm really happy with this record. And, you know, a lot of that's because everybody writes.
Right.
You know, bands where just, you know, one guy writes, you know, it tends to sound sort of a certain way. And the Dwarves, it's always been. Nick always has a few songs on every record. I always have a couple songs on every record. Saltpeter, the original bass player, he throws in a song or two on each record. Blag songs. Josh Freese comes in with a song. You know, so everybody writes. We take all those songs and just pick out the best one. That's what we do. So I think it makes for a stronger record. Beatles were great. Probably could have put in another George Harrison song here or there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
They eventually gave him one a record. But hey, man, I bet you the song that he wrote right after something was pretty fucking good too. But you know, they weren't allowing it on. You know
right.
I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I think it's always better with multiple people writing. That's how the Dwarves has always been, at least since I've been in it.
And that's what I say. Like for your guys' genre, you guys are like have the finest lyricists in the circle there to make such cool songs. You know, I always say like the Dwarves lyrics are some of the coolest out there. You know.
Yeah, well, you know, and again, that's because you know people write their own style. Like for me, it's like you know I'll write certain songs. Like okay, I wrote this song, but this is for Nick to sing. You know, we only came to get high. When I wrote that, I go. Showed the Blag, I'm like, this has to be a Nick song, or Bleed All Right. When I wrote that one, hey man, you know, I was like, that's awesome. Like, this has to be Scream, you know, for Nick. You know, other songs that I write are, you know, meant for Blag to sing, you know.
Right.
So, you know, you write differently for different people, but everybody writes. So, you know, that helps.
And you've even written songs actually like just for a country purpose, you know, off Invented Rock and Roll. What song you wrote? You kind of wrote it as a country song.
The song, Anything You Need.
Yeah.
Last song on the record. Yeah, I wrote that as a country song. And then when we were doing the record, I'm like, you know, if you play this loud and fast, it makes a good Dwarf song. But originally it was written as a do.
Right.
You know, kind of, but it lends us, you know, what I need is for a country person to cover that song. And
yeah, there you go.
Get some money.
That's all you need. That's why you write it that way, because that's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the way that one was conceived like that. And then once I realized that you could play it fast and Dwarves style, then it worked as a good, you know, Dwarves rock song. But,
right.
You know, things change.
So one of the things that we wanted to do, an idea we had, and it was so great that you indulge us. We're like, hey, Marc, can you play a few riffs for us? And you recorded some killer videos, so we'd love to go.
That's my daughter.
She's good at panning. Her stable hand.
Pardon?
She has a stable hand.
I cut everybody's heads off. I can't record anything. Yeah. She went after me for a few minutes. I wasn't sure what you were looking for, so I just really quickly just played. John had asked for Get Up and Get High.
Yeah, that's his favorite riff. I mean,
I just played it. You know, that one, like I said, it's just bar chords.
Yeah, and I mean, like all the Dwarves riffs are just so cool, and it's like I say, you're just a monster with the guitar, and it just fits that band so good. So I think what we're gonna do is we're going to go take a look at your new casa that we haven't been to yet. You're going to give us a little kind of a quick show of your jam room, and you're going to show us a few of your licks real quick. So we're going to cut out to that.
Hey, this is the Fresh Prince of Darkness from the motherfucking Dwarves.
Today we're going to be shooting for John and Brian's podcast. I wanted to see some riffs. Let's go to the music room, shall we? All right, here's a riff from a song called Take Back the Night that I wrote for the album called Take Back the Night, and it goes something like this. An oldie but a goodie from the album Sugar Fix. This was a song called Anybody Out There. The Dwarves got a new record in the can. I don't know when it'll be out, but here's a new riff from a song called We Win, You Lose.
Well, thank you for that little view. That's such a cool little jam room that you have there, Marc. We did photos of the last one back when we were in California. Did some fun photos. This jam room looks really cool.
Like I said, there's 2 extra rooms on the garage. My wife said, you can have them if you promise not to bring any of your shit into the house.
That's pretty good compromise. Yeah.
So I'm happy to have a space. But it's nice because I can go out there and listen to music whenever I want. I can record out there. It's good to have a little space.
Yeah, I'm jealous of it. But we'll be out there soon. We got to do updated photos of you and the fam.
Yeah, I got to come by. I transferred all those fucking fish up here too.
Oh, cool! All the koi fish are up there, huh? That was just a fun day.
That was the biggest pain in my ass ever.
I believe it.
So tell us how the pandemic affected you guys. How long did you go without playing a show?
We went a good, I'd say at least, started in, about a year and a half, right? Because, it started in March of 2020. So that next summer, we had the usual summer European festivals. We didn't do any of those. Then the following year, I believe, the first thing we did, out and about, is when they did the punk rock bowling, but they did it later in like October or something. So it was a good year and a half. That was the first kind of outing we had. So, that said, the thing I learned from the pandemic is that I don't miss touring. I hate touring. I don't mind staying home, but I do miss seeing people play music.
Right. But it kind of may, it interfere. You also, people don't know. It cuts into the day job that you kind of work around, but a lot of people don't know that you're also a school teacher.
Yeah, I got some book learning.
So I'm guessing during the pandemic, the schools didn't shut down. Were you busier than ever teaching during that time?
Yeah, school teaching. Yeah, for that, man, you just had to teach online, which was weird, and I didn't like it. I mean, it was nice not having to wear pants for a year. Nice not having to wear lunch. People can only see me from here, but it's not really the optimum way to teach, if you've ever, during the pandemic year, I had a kindergarten class of 23 kids, trying to teach kids shit on Zoom came with its challenges.
Right.
But knock on wood, I was lucky because I was employed the whole time. A lot of people weren't so lucky. The pandemic was certainly a lot harder on a lot of people than it was on me. So I consider myself one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and you actually had your daughter in a class one time.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Well, that was a weird thing, because she was going to school too, but she'd be in a different room on her Zoom. It was a very awkward thing. I hope we never have to go back to that.
Right.
So, do any of the parents ever recognize you as being a rock legend that you are?
What's that?
I said, did any of the parents of your kids that you teach recognize you as a rock legend?
No, I keep that stuff very separate. The teachers that I know, they all know that I do stuff with music. I try not to tell them what band because it's not going to do me any good for have a parent look up a picture, go on YouTube and see me standing next to a guy with his dick out, hitting somebody over the head with a guitar, playing a song called Free Cocaine, and going, hey, that's my teacher, But, you get these teaching assistant, like these 20-year-old kids, Every once in a while, one of them's like, hey, you're, I'm like, yeah, keep it under your hat, man. I try to keep this separate, And I remember one time, one teacher, she's like, hey, the other day, she was very cool. She didn't give a shit out of the band. She's like, some parent was dropping off their kid and he's wearing one of your shirts. And I'm like, what, my shirt? I don't have a shirt. She's like, from your band. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. She goes, the one with the two big dicks on it? I'm like,
yeah. Oops, that one. Yeah.
Some people definitely know, but in general, I don't advertise it.
Yeah.
I'm a good teacher. I'm very immature, so kids like me, but people don't need to know that. But there's plenty that do. If people ask me about traveling, I just used to tell them, I'm doing sound or somebody hired me to do some shit or whatever,
Right.
I don't advertise what band it is. It's the greatest band in the world, but I also need to keep this job.
Yeah, that logo is so fucking great because people look at it at first, they don't know it's a couple of dicks.
Man, when my daughter was very young, she's 13 now, she's gonna be 14. When she was little, every band in the world has, skull and crossbones on their logo. Every fucking band. You go to the Amoeba, you go to a local record store, they always have, the wall with 10,000 stickers on it. We would go to that, and she'd be looking at it. She's like 4 or 5. There'd be 10,000 stickers, and I'd say half of them have a skull and crossbones. And she would just point to one and go, Daddy's band. It would always be the Dwarves sticker.
Yeah.
But she never confused it with anything else. We'd be walking down the street. You'd be in like a hip area. Everybody's wearing their rock shirts and skulls and crossbones. And every once in a while she'd go, hey, Daddy's band. He's got Daddy's band shirt. And be a guy with the Dwarves thing. So even before she knew what it was, she never once saw like a pirate flag and said, hey, Daddy's band. She never confused it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was very weird. And I always kind of dreamt that she would never know what it was. But finally, a couple of years ago, I'm like, she's like, Dad, I know what that is.
You explained to her that you're in a band with Blag.
Yeah, but it's just kind of funny though. Even when she was little, she never confused it for anything else. There'd be that, like I said, that wall of like 300 stickers, and she'd look and go, Daddy's band. Every sticker has a skull and crossbones on it. So.
And she's actually been to a Dwarves show.
After the Stones, we got the best logo in rock and roll.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I actually wore the hoodie once before I realized what it was, and had a meeting with a manager of mine. She's a female, and came out, and one of my coworkers like, so you wore that hoodie in there, huh? I was like, yeah. No, look at it. I was like, what? I was like, oh shit, those are dicks. But it's perfect.
What's funny is that it gets on TV fairly often, right?
Right.
There's somebody, a friend of mine from the East Coast, there's some like last drive-in theater and the whole town was trying to save it. So all the local news stations were giving this guy like a good 3 minutes every night on the 6 o'clock news to pitch, hey, save our local drive-in. Every night he did it, he was wearing a Dwarves shirt. The 6 o'clock news, he's just wearing that, and it got on TV every night. There's that show Intervention. Remember that? It was on A&E where they followed some hapless junkie for 2 weeks before they tried to get him off drugs. So people started calling me, man, you got to watch Intervention. Because there's some guy, and he wore a Dwarves hoodie the entire episode, and they never blurred it once.
It slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, so a lot of times it pops up. I've seen it on a few Comedy Central shows when they have people, and people just think they're saying,
That's great. It gives you a good chuckle.
Yeah, I always get a kick out of it. If you look at a 6 o'clock news thing and someone's wearing 2 big dicks on their chest, it's pretty awesome.
And no one knows it.
So you talked about some of the earlier influences. Are there guitar players out right now that you're really into, that you really like, that you dig?
No, everybody else sucks. I'm the only good one. No, that's not true. Man, I honestly try so hard, so hard to like new bands. I want to like new music. Nothing makes me happier when I see a band. I go, oh my God, these guys are great. A bunch of young kids, but most of the shit you see are bad. The guys who I still like are my age. Guy, you go play with Zeke. Fucking Mark blows me away every time. That guy's got the fastest hand. That's a good guitar player, man. But I want to like. I mean, I did sound for years too. at a big club in LA. And it's like, nothing would make me happy. I don't want to be the old curmudgeonly guy, you know what I mean? But nothing makes me happier if I see like a young new band. I go, oh my God, these guys are great. But it just doesn't happen that much anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, I still, you know, I listen to the Stones. I listen to a lot of Stones, you know?
Right. I have always had this theory that most of the good songs have already been written, and then what new band that's come out the last year are going to be around in the next 5 years? There's not many of them. And here you guys are going on 30 some odd years as the Dwarves.
Yeah, you know, and it shouldn't be that way, man. I mean, the Beatles were only together for 8 years. You know what I mean? Kids should have, there should be there's no rock and roll anymore. If you ask people, okay, well, what are the big rock bands? Just rock bands. Well, they would say, well, the Foo Fighters, okay, Foo Fighters are fine. They've also been around for 30 years now, you know what I mean? And then it used to be, you'd say, well, I guess like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Okay, well, he's dead, but,
right.
You know, what are the new rock bands? There's no new rock bands. It's the same thing in most genres, man. Show me a metal band that was better than Slayer. Slayer was the one.
Right.
I mean, they've been around for 40 years because they did it better than everybody, you know? Actually, you know what? The one band that I really like, and I don't like metal at all, Municipal Waste.
Ah, those guys were great. Yeah, we saw.
Because they do metal perfect. They took out all the things that make metal stupid. They took out big, long, 5-minute guitar solos. They took out a guy going, wah, which I can't stand. And they took out songs about dragons and swords and shit like that. They fucking rule. We played with them a bunch. We did a little tour with them. They're great. That's the band that I listen to them. I mean, they've been around a while too, but they're not super old like us. But you know, there's a band that I listen to. But there should be a bunch of bands, but you know, you hate to say it, a lot of the new shit just kind of sucks.
Well, Marc, this has been fun for us. We really appreciate you coming on here. And what we do with all of our musical guests that we have, we ask the same 5 questions to all of them. It's just kind of fun. And one of them's maybe fun because you've had an encounter with the individual. But let's start with this one here. What was the best concert that you've ever been to?
Ooh, the first time I saw the Ramones, I was 16. That was just the most perfect thing I'd ever seen. First time I saw Ministry back in like '89, that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. You know, I've seen a lot of my favorite bands, you know, Stones and Cheap Trick, those are great. But the things that just really, you know, first time seeing Ramones, that just, you know, I'd never seen anything so perfect. Ministry was great. It's just, I'd never heard anything so loud and so powerful, and just, that was really great. Yeah, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of great shows, a lot of bands I like, but those two, I saw Keith Richards solo. That was pretty great. I like that back in '86 or something like that. But yeah, no, I guess it'd be probably those two as far as like the best shows. You see a lot of bands you like and you go, they're awesome. You know what I mean? Well, you know, it's funny too when you bring that up. The good thing too about those bands is like, you go, so many people will go see their favorite band and you'll go, how was it? And they'll go, oh, it was great. And then they go, you know, they played a really long time. You should never have to say that. The Ramones, they play the perfect amount.
Yeah.
You go see AC/DC, they play an hour and a half, and then they come back and they do a 20-minute encore. It's plenty. God bless Springsteen and all these people, man. You know, if the Beatles reformed tomorrow, I couldn't watch them for 3 hours.
No. John and I have talked about that. I have problems sitting through a 3-hour set.
Some bands just play too long. Yeah, so one thing about seeing, you know, those two particular shows, Ministry and the Ramones, the first time I saw each of those bands was fantastic. It was perfect, more than I could ever imagine. And they also didn't play too long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Your house is on fire. You have time to save one album. Which one do you grab?
Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers.
Yeah.
Sticky Fingers is the greatest rock and roll album ever made.
Good. I have it there.
I can
with
never imagine.
But with the real zipper.
I have the one with the zipper, yeah. I just can't imagine anybody ever producing more glorious, perfect rock and roll than Sticky Fingers.
Right. Great album.
It's classic.
Okay, fill in the blank. People would be surprised that I listen to.
Yeah, you know, I love the Cardigans. Cardigans is a little pop band from Sweden. People in the United States, they only know them because they had that one hit 20 years ago. love me, say that you love me. That was their only little hit here. But they put out album after album of perfect pop songs, cool little guitar stuff, and the girl's got an amazing voice. I love that band.
Well,
The first time that I was with the Dwarves and we were playing some big festivals in Malmo, which the Cardigans were from, and I didn't know who was on the festival. I'm like, oh man, maybe the Cardigans are playing. That'd be awesome. I got real excited. Somehow in my head, I talked it up to like the Cardigans are playing. I had nothing to base that on. You know, why would we? Anyways, it ended up being us and Mayhem and Testament. There was no Cardigans. But that's a great fucking pop band. I like pop music. Like I said, they have that one. People here only know that one tune from many years ago, but I think they had an American distributor for many years. But they sold a shit ton of records in Scandinavia, and they're a great pop band. And I listen to the Cardigans all the time.
Well, you had our super producer Kelsie nodding in the background with total approval. That's a band she likes. So nice job.
Excited about that.
Great record after great record after great record. Just great albums and great songwriting. Really cool guitar play. You know, it's not loud shit, but they're awesome. And also, they do a lot of really strange, you know, for a band so pop and light like that, they cover cool shit, man. They cover a lot of Sabbath songs, Thin Lizzy songs. Their version of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is amazing, and Iron Man. So you can tell that, you know, they know what's up. But the Cardigans are a great fucking band.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, question 4. You win the lottery. Money's not an object to you anymore. Who's going to be the band that plays your celebration party?
Well, that's a good one. Well, you know, Jeff Spicoli said Van Halen.
Right.
He won. But that's not going to happen anymore. And funny, I remember reading that question. I didn't really think about it. What band would I get to play my celebration? Well, I don't know. I got to take a pass on that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, this is
yeah.
this is
everything that I think of are bands that probably aren't together anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Dwarves.
You mentioned Eddie Van Halen.
I pocket the money and hire myself.
Yeah, there you go.
So you mentioned Eddie Van Halen. Who is the greatest guitar player of all time that's not named Marc Diamond?
Like I said, for me, for the type of music I ended up doing, Steve Jones.
Yeah.
Keith Richards is an absolute genius. The whole less is more is perfect. And the other guy who's great, who I always love so much, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. You got a guy who's clearly Beatles influenced, but he kind of took it up a notch in a more kind of arena rock way. And Malcolm Young. Angus Young is great, but Malcolm Young is one of the most solid guys in the world. I really appreciate. In most bands, you have two guitar players. The one guy's not the rhythm guy because he's the best rhythm guy. He's the rhythm guy because the other guy's better and you play faster. You know what I mean?
Right.
Except for in the Stones and the AC/DC, where the rhythm guy is the rhythm guy because he's the best rhythm guy ever.
Exactly. I even would say that Eddie Van Halen was actually a great rhythm player himself.
People forget that. He was a great rhythm player. And those first Van Halen records when I was a kid, those were huge. You know, I loved it. We all were enamored by the thing.
Right.
But the thing you forget is that, you know, songs, man, they had great songs, pop songs. Their songs all had hooks, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, he could play the shit out of it, and we all cranked Eruption in our bedrooms and hoped that we could do that someday and whatever. But bottom line, it comes down to songs. They had great songs, and they had fun party songs.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
I loved all the David Lee Roth, Van Halen stuff. I didn't really recognize the rest.
Yeah, that's everyone's childhood. I mean, you had to. Those 6 albums with Dave were just amazing. Okay, final question. Lemmy meets you at the pearly gates. What does he say to you?
When I first met Lemmy, the Dwarves went out with Motorhead. We had a fun little run with them, and then eventually their manager kicked the Dwarves off the tour, which is fine. But I imagine he would say the same thing the first time I met him. He said, "Hey, you're one of those Dwarves. Let's go have a drink." First time I met Lemmy, he invited me into his little trailer dressing room and fixed me a drink.
That's awesome.
I'm sure he'd do the same.
Well,
He was a stand-up guy. It's amazing with, you know, certain people, whatever. You can't find anybody who can ever say anything bad about him.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I met him once. He was an asshole. Oh, he was moody. Oh, he was a dick. You know, it just doesn't happen.
That's
That
awesome.
was always nice to me. And first time I met him, he invited me in and made me a drink. So
A perfect
I'm sure
introduction.
it would be the same if I got to see him again.
Yeah, That's awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
Well, I want to throw a curveball in here.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite bands is NoFX, and they've announced that they're shutting it down after 40 years. How long do you want to keep playing? You just want to keep playing?
I was ready to shut down 20 years ago. I mean, honestly, look, I love making music and recording music, and I do enjoy playing and seeing people, but I don't want to, I think it's ridiculous that all these old punk bands are still touring at the age we are. And the only reason that happens is because the new bands were no good. There's better young bands, all of us, NoFX, Dwarves, Bad Religion, all these great bands. We all would have been put out to pasture years ago if somebody had fucking done it right, but no one did. I know that sounds a little shitty in a way, but it's like, man, it should be that you go play a show one day and a bunch of 17-year-old kids blow you off the stage. I don't think anything would ever make me happier. It's just we would play the show and a bunch of kids got up there and just fucking just smoked us. And they'd be like, all right, we're done.
God, anxious to see you again. We just can't thank you enough for coming on here and doing this little interview with us. Oh.
Yeah,
Well, always good to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
Always.
Nice meeting Kelsie.
Yeah, this has been great. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for Kelsie.
She's gonna cat.
Kitty cat, pussy cat. Kelsie. He's gonna show us his pussy.
That's Master Winston.
Oh.
Winston's my old buddy. Winston. Where's Winston now? Winston's got to be about 13.
Cute.
Winston, years.
Well, with that, I think we should sign off. Thanks, Marc. Thanks,
sir.
Kelsie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Kaz.
And I'm Shay. Thanks for watching another episode of For the Record with Kaz and Shay. See you later, Marc.
Thanks, Marc.
Hey, so obviously John and Brian have paid me an enormous sum of money to take all this time to play these riffs for you. But because of that, I'm going to throw in a freebie for them. It's a classic that we love in the Dwarves, and I know you're going to love it too. It's called Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim. Tiptoe through the tulips, past the window,